more on this. I'm joined from Bangkok by Phil Robertson from Human Rights Watch. Phil, the so-called five-point plan agreed to by ASEAN members last April admittedly hasn't worked. Could the Cambodian Prime Minister's approach of meeting Myanmar's military rulers directly be worth trying out?
Well, judging by the joint statement that came out of that meeting between Hun Sen and Senior General Min Aung Hlaing, I think the answer is probably no. The statement itself touted a ceasefire that was agreed by the Myanmar military till the end of 2022. But the reality is they're busy bombarding and attacking ethnic organizations all across the country, and no one's interested in talking to them about a ceasefire. So the fact that Prime Minister Hun Sen touted this as some sort of political progress shows either that he has been duped by the Burmese or that he's playing along with a charade to try to indicate there's progress when in fact there is none.
You mean Cambodia isn't being sincere in its efforts to secure peace in Myanmar?
That is still a very open question. And our assessment based on that joint statement is that no, because Cambodia also did not insist on meeting with all parties involved in Myanmar, including Aung San Suu Kyi and other imprisoned elected leaders from the November 2020 election. This was a meeting between dictators, between Hun Sen, who's got his own human rights problems in Cambodia, and the general who's leading the brutal Myanmar junta, which has been massacring villagers and bombarding settlements and committing human rights violations all across the country.
And now you have Cambodia as chair of ASEAN for this year. What then can we expect from the 10-nation bloc when it comes to Myanmar?
Well, we'll see next week when the foreign ministers of ASEAN meet in Siem Reap in Cambodia for their foreign ministers retreat, whether Hun Sen gets an earful from the other foreign ministers for basically stepping out of turn. There wasn't really very much consultation with the other ASEAN leaders before Hun Sen jetted off to Myanmar. And it appears that he got very little from his conversations there and appears to have endorsed a statement that on its face is problematic. So he's got a lot to answer for, and I think that the foreign ministers of the other countries, particularly Indonesia, Malaysia, and Singapore, who have been very tough on Myanmar, they're going to give him a hard time.
What does all this say about ASEAN's so-called central role in trying to negotiate an end to the crisis in Myanmar?
Well, I think ASEAN is still split right down the middle about what to do about Myanmar, and that is a fundamental problem. The European Union and its member states continue saying that ASEAN centrality is a core part of their policy towards Myanmar, but that centrality is failing because there is no consensus about where to go next. I think it's now time for the European Union, the U.S., and other countries to play a leading role and stop trying to push this off to the regional leaders to solve.
Phil Robertson, we'll leave it there for the time being, but thank you so much for joining us today.
Thank you.